Nearly $800 million of taxpayer money the federal government admits likely ended up in the wrong hands.
This is a huge amount of taxpayer money.
It's part of the $23 billion in farm subsidies paid out in 2018 and 19, meant to help farmers hurt by the Trump-era trade wars. But we found payments linked to addresses in the French Quarter of New Orleans and Washington, D.C.'s prestigious Georgetown neighborhood. The information provided by the government doesn't explain why farm subsidies went to urban areas like these, all across the country. And this money came from a program government watchdogs say had lax oversight and inconsistent guidelines.
There are some of the rules are not good business sense.
Even proponents of these subsidies say the way the government hands out billions of dollars of taxpayer money every year needs to change.
But you're saying it should just be cleaner, simpler.
Yeah.
It'd be easier to figure out.
Sure.
We wouldn't be asking all these questions.
No, that's right.
Our questions about the Market Facilitation Program, or MFP, a 2-year handout that dwarfed traditional annual farm subsidies. Typically, each year the federal government hands out about $12 billion in farm subsidies. But in the years around the trade war, that nearly doubled because of these MFP payments.
A lot of people were hurting, and a lot of people were not going to be able to make it.
Kansas farmer Brett Niebling says the subsidy eased some of the impact of the trade war, helping some farms stay in business when prices fell and markets dried up.
It was not something we ever counted on being a full-time, but it sure was. It helped. It helped. And I know, like I said, there's some criticism with it. And I'm not saying it was a perfect program, but for those, I think those who need it, it did help.
A safety net, but one he acknowledges plants seeds of skepticism.
These programs are necessary. I know they're complicated for the consumer to understand. And like I've said, sometimes they're complicated for us to understand, but they're there for that safety net.
Part of that skepticism, critics say for some larger farms, these payments could have provided more of a boost than a bailout. We found 22 farm groups that in 2 years received more than $2 million each in these MFP subsidies.
Is it a boost to their profit or to keep their business afloat?
I'm going to say that if they had good production, it helped them make a profit. It wasn't just standing still. I think they helped them probably make a profit.
But how does that look if the government's given out billions and billions and it helped if they didn't really need it, you're saying?
I'm never saying that a farmer doesn't need it because he's got years and years, you know. What I'm saying in 18 and 19, it was a boost.
What does a boost mean?
Well, it supplemented the income that they already had. They weren't anticipating this payment. I mean, that wasn't part of their budgetary process.
The program had a cap on total payments for individuals and entities, $375,000 in 2018, $500,000 in 2019. Yet our analysis of USDA data found dozens of addresses with combined totals of more than $1 million. The reason? Farm partnerships, where each member can get the maximum payment, and there's no limit to the number of members. The program allowed a farm group in Louisiana to make $2.3 million, a Tennessee farm $2.6, Mississippi $3.8 million, and the most to a farm group in Missouri, where operating under 3 separate partnerships, farms connected to the one family received nearly $8 million in trade war bailout subsidies. That group's attorney, Robert Serio.
So they're using the partnership to get around the rules?
No, they're not to get around the rules, to follow the rules.
Or to take advantage? Is that fair?
It's not taking advantage of the rules because the rules are the rules.
His clients may have followed the rules, but not everyone did. The USDA estimates it improperly paid out nearly $800 million in MFP subsidies. One reason, the agency was supposed to do spot checks on payments to make sure farms were eligible and received the right amount. But a federal watchdog called these checks limited in their usefulness and the overall effort inefficient and unreliable. In fact, the USDA couldn't even say how many spot checks had been done for 2018 payments, and in the second year almost entirely stopped those spot checks, essentially performing few compliance checks to make sure taxpayer dollars were being spent appropriately.
I think there's really a big need for the USDA to do more on tracking these payments and making sure that people who are eligible for payments are the ones that are actually getting the money.
The Environmental Working Group tracks farm subsidies like the MFP. It called the program an expensive and inequitable boondoggle, arguing it allowed recipients to get more than the original maximum payment limit and overwhelmingly went to farmers who were already wealthy.
It's really important that we, crack down on improper payments, and also that we can make changes to these programs so that the money is not just going to the largest and wealthiest farms, but actually the people who need the money. So smaller farms that are more likely to be diversified and actually, struggle to pay their bills, these are the people who should actually be getting most of this money.
The USDA was able to run the program without congressional oversight, including making changes to the rules. When the trade war didn't let up and the Trump administration called for more aid, emails we uncovered show the agriculture industry pushed for more money and changes to the program, and got both. In year one, the government paid based on the type of crop, but in year two, based the calculation on location. It meant farmers growing the same crop just a few miles apart received different amounts of money. For example, a farmer in Monroe County, Arkansas would have received $68 for every acre of eligible land, but another farmer in an adjacent county just 900 yards away would have received $108 an acre. The complicated guidelines force many farms to hire attorneys like Robert Serio, who argues simplifying the rules would be better for farmers and taxpayers.
All these guys are trying to do, all these farmers are just trying to produce crops. And yet, to do it in a manner that they need to do it in to keep their cash flows proper, to have a chance at making money, they've got to hire me to organize them and tell them what the rules are. Why should they have to do that?
And he says simplifying the program, moving massive amounts of your money to farms across America, would help everyone in the system, especially taxpayers.